Bloomberg is reporting that Microsoft suddenly went from no particular margin target for the Xbox division to a 30% margin target. Industry average is 17 to 22%. Xbox was at 12%. Do you think this is the core reason for all the bad news coming from Xbox? It's probably why they're going with an extremely expensive console next generation and why their current consoles are completely overpriced. I haven't read that report, but those are the headline figures that I have been seeing reported around. I think it's really difficult to make sweeping generalizations about a topic where you're not fully informed about the way it's all working. But with that said, the sort of perception and the direction of travel that we're seeing here with Microsoft, it does seem to be a sort of procession of necessary changes to the business, because console clearly wasn't working for them. But at the same time, there do seem to be demands being made that are resulting in some pretty crazy decisions being made, like, the cancellation of games that are quite far along in development, for example, laying off a huge bunch of really talented developers, that sort of thing, increasing the cost of the Xbox to basically disincentivizes people to actually buy one. It's kind of baffling. John, thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, looking at this, one has to potentially theorize that we're looking at what's sort of like an internal struggle between two different, groups within Microsoft. And it feels like management is essentially basically placing what feels like an unreasonable goal potentially on the Xbox team. As a result, it's like a way to essentially say, like, to enact major changes, right? Setting them up to fail so they can get what they want is what it feels like. But we don't know exactly what is actually going on, but like, it does if these numbers are to be taken and, you start to extrapolate from that, it does make one think that some of the decisions being made are basically things that the core Xbox team staff probably wouldn't have wanted to do if they had been able to continue with the way that they wanted. Not to say that things were always working the way that they could have, but this just feels like okay, let's just rip off the Band-Aid and get this over with, and then we'll go from there, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, it feels very much like a from the top down sort of decision about a business division that, the top management of Microsoft perhaps views as not that important anymore, at least to them. Or they want, there's obviously an importance there given how much they've invested in it, but like, it feels like they want to drastically alter what that business is to suit whatever their goals are.
Mm-hmm. I don't quite believe this concept that it never had a particular margin target, because for a business of that size, answerable to its shareholders, I kind of think it probably would have.
Of course.
Alex, thoughts?
Yeah, I guess another thing to always just remember here is that they did buy Activision Blizzard, and since they are liable to shareholders, and these people always, after some sort of acquisition, there's always some drive for like profitability, like extreme, and that's just the way this market and these systems work. And so that they would go into overdrive profitability afterward, instead of saying like, actually, this was an investment that'll, over the course of 10 years, we'll be the richest people on earth. No, it's like now. And so it kind of does horribly make sense that this could be what is being reported on.
Alex, I'm wondering, I mean, for both of you, do you think if they had not acquired Activision that things would have been continuing as they were? Or do you think that was actually a turning point in the way Xbox is run? Or do you think that this is an inevitable transition?
Well, I mean, I think the AI pivot of Microsoft would have occurred regardless of Activision Blizzard, which is maybe now more deciding the future of Microsoft's whims than that. But at the time, man, if it didn't happen, though, they'd be in a very different marketplace, because they would have revenue that is just the same as it's ever been before, but decreasing over time because there's less Xbox users.
I think the pivot would have happened anyway, certainly towards multi-platform, because, Xbox Series consoles didn't make the impact that was hoped for. The gambit with a lower price machine with Series S apparently didn't play out or work out the way Microsoft expected. So, obviously there does need to be a change to strategy, right? I don't particularly have a problem with the multi-platform strategy at all, to be honest, but it does fundamentally change the nature of the business from this kind of, the traditional console platform holder into kind of like a hybrid of that and something like Electronic Arts at its peak. That's the way I kind of see it.
It just kind of it creates this weird issue for me though, where like it seems like they were moving towards this Game Pass model being like the big thing for them.
Yeah.
But then if they shift away the business is run, multi-platform, everything's an Xbox, it kind of potentially reduces the number of platforms where Game Pass is even a thing.
Well,
right?
that's the other thing, right? There are going to be platforms that are an Xbox allegedly, but don't run Game Pass.
Right.
So how does that work? We're going back to that disconnect between what is an Xbox and what is a client device that's actually got running ports effectively.
Which is why I feel like this was a big left turn for them, where they clearly were like going in this one direction very hard, and then somebody made a decision like, we need to like change things and go in this other direction now, because the two don't really sit that well together.
Not as much, no.